Hey, welcome to the Hired AV podcast. My name is Joe Way, and I am your host. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. We are going Big Red. We're staying Big Ten. It's supposed to have been Big 12 and Pac-12, and now we're both Big Ten. I don't know how that works, but you know what? Welcome to modern athletics. I'm really excited about today. Having Matt on the show. And we're going to talk some good stuff. We've got an AV design engineer on where we're going to really, we're going to dig into nerdy stuff that I'm just going to smile and nod. That's really how this next 30 minutes is going to go. But with no further ado, again, everybody's favorite part of the show where I stop talking and the guest starts. So Matt, welcome to the show. Please tell people who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you, Joe, for having me on. My name is Matt Bolton. I work for the University of Nebraska. I'm based in Lincoln, but I work for the actual University of Nebraska system. And I am the AV design engineer for the university. So I get to play in all sorts of different types of rooms and situations and see if I can stretch my mind and my horizons a little bit on these projects.
All right, so AV design engineer, I know overall it's kind of a self-explanatory title. However, a lot of schools that can mean a lot of different things. So are you the architect? Do you do the fiddling with stuff? Kind of define the scope on all of that.
Yes. I was thinking about that earlier. It's like, I need a shelf behind me that has about 10 different hats on it that just say what I'm going to do. And it's kind of difficult because there's too many portions of my role to actually do perfectly. And that's kind of the downfall of having one very specialized position within an organization is I am the design engineer, meaning I have concepts of the system. I talk with the different departments. We actually come up with the design of what they need for their requirements. And then once we get the contract signed, I actually do all the procurement. So I order everything. We house all the equipment on campus here. I do the engineering, the documentation side of things, and certain situations I'm actually out helping to install as well. So it's kind of everything. The one thing I don't do anymore is the programming, which I will get into a little bit of DSP programming, but the main AMX programming, I leave that to somebody a little more familiar with it. I haven't really done that since 2018 when I got this role. So I don't want to jump back in and mess things up there too much.
Well, that is quite a scope. So just a question then, I mean, since you kind of do it for the system and the state system, does that mean that there's standardization across the whole system, or how does that look?
No. We at UNL, we have our own standards. My predecessor has been in the business for quite a while. Greg Karsten's fabulous man. You probably know him from HETMA.
Great
He was
guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. He was my predecessor, and he was the one that actually came in and developed the standards for UNL. So he did all the heavy lifting for me. I just get to go in and update those standards every so often. And so we have our standards. UNK, Kearney, they basically took our standards and adopted them to their situations. Omaha has their own standards, and UNMC has their own standards. So we share some similar products. The other three campuses are pretty heavy Crestron. We're very much Harman-centric, so AMX and BSS. I know they're using some QSC at UNMC, but the few things that we do use that are similar are Samsung displays and Panasonic projectors. So other than that, we're kind of definitely not standardized across the campus, but it is a conversation that we've talked about through upper management. It's very complex. How would we start to shift campuses, an entire campus, over to something that they haven't done? And it equates a lot of money and a lot of time invested. So that's something that really hasn't gone too far other than the initial conversations.
Money can fix everything, right? Just add a couple of zeros, you can get anything done, right?
Money and time, that's all you need.
That's it. And you can buy the time with money, right?
Sure.
The other way around, right?
You can definitely buy more help.
Exactly.
We can get that time back, but yeah.
So, kind of before we hit record, we were having too good of a conversation, so I had to make sure I hit record. You had mentioned that not too long ago, you all went through what you called your one IT. Ironically, at UCLA, we're doing something similar, but in a different way. So, how does that then work? Because I think there's a lot of people, in our industry get either very siloed within silos of a university. What does that kind of mean when you're looking at a system wide? And I'm asking a multiple part questions, but what does it mean when you're looking at the system wide, but also kind of what is the process like when you're going through something like that?
Yeah. So, like we were talking earlier, when I was hired for the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and I was a Lincoln employee. We have two campuses in Lincoln. We have our main city campus, and then we have our East campus. And then Kearney has a campus, Omaha has a campus, UNMC has a campus. A few years back, they were looking at resources and trying to figure out, how do we bring these groups together for better communication, those conversations of standardizing equipment, things like that. So they went through what they called their One IT initiative, and we started bringing all these groups together. It allows for more cross training, so better partnerships amongst campuses, not feeling like, yes, this silo can't help here, this silo can't help here. So there's definitely a lot of things that have happened on the back end to try to bring those campuses closer through the IT on the AV side. And then for the networking side was a huge thing. So we went through an entire network swap over the last several years, and One IT was a big part of that. So our network now spans all four campuses and is using the same equipment. It's it's a very integrated system, and it was a very complex process to get everything switched over. I was not part of that, other than the fact that when I'm trying to get my computer connected, Wi-Fi connections or AV systems connections, that's a sister department. We're under the same umbrella, but we have different management up until we get way up the chain. So we do work together, and actually now we're working much closer together because AV over IP. That is definitely you just have to work together or things don't work.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's like I just had this last week. Oh, for people listening to this show, you are listening to this on October 14th. However, if you're listening to it this week, the week we're doing it, I had that, which is we are recording on October 2nd. I have my associate CIO of infrastructure on as the guest, right, on this last one, and it was the same thing. We're going through a big network upgrade, and the way we have to work together, even like with our pilot, and understand, like, there is nothing that doesn't have an RJ45 jack on it anymore, right? And it doesn't even matter whether you're doing AV over IP. The fact is, we're impacting a network. We are a cybersecurity, I won't say threat, but consideration, right? We are, we are going to impact packet flow from building to building and all that. So exactly what you're saying, that need to connect with the departments, even if they're really their own, though we're all kind of under the same umbrella, we can't live in isolation, right? Yeah. And I think also along kind of with that too, we're going through the same thing where we're rebuilding our network from scratch. Because I'm so network heavy, they also can't design without work. When I told them, they're like, "Oh, so what do you need in your classroom?" I'm like, "Oh, I need about 16 jacks. I need 4 up here and there. I need 4 over there." And they're like, "Wait, you need what?" You basically need a switch per classroom. Like, I don't make the stuff up. That's the way it works.
Yeah, I'm working on a high profile one right now, and I'm having 48 data ports pulled to my AV rack and another, like 35 pulled into the actual space, and it's the world we live in now. Everything is connected, everything talks, and it's just making sure things are done properly and we're secure. We're not allowing for any issues to happen on the back end, but they can point back to us and go, this is your equipment. So yeah, we started out AV over IP. We've been doing for quite a few years. I think I wouldn't say we're early adopter, but we kind of saw the road where it was heading, decided to jump on board and try and get ahead of some things. And we've been doing a lot of Netgear switches as a standalone air gap system. And with our a mandate basically stating that we can't have these air gap systems, then we started having these conversations with our networking teams and starting to bring things online. And I think it was 2019 when I told them, AV is not your standard network. It's not printers. It's not computers. It's not emails. This is a totally different animal. And I'll never forget what they told me at that time. You're like, well, packets are packets. And they're very deep in it now, but they're realizing that there's so much more to it. So on their side of things, they have an uphill battle to learn all of these technologies as well. So it's a very tight collaboration to make sure things are working well. You can walk out of the room and, they're going to continue to work, and the next step is firmware updates and the dangers that pose. So we're actually in those conversations right now.
Yeah, you totally nailed it, because it's funny. I had back at my previous institution had this conversation with the network team too, and they said, "Well, really, we're just sending ones and zeros everywhere." And I'm like, well, there is a difference. Like literally, if the printer delays by 30 seconds to take it, nothing gets impacted, right? If if your email, your web page buffers for a couple seconds, it's annoying, but it doesn't matter. I can't have my Zoom call buffer or my, whatever, anything in my classroom when I'm sending. And yeah, I'm only sending from a laptop to that screen, but it's still going through a switch you're managing.
Yep.
So how do you then, because I know I hear this all the time in our industry, and here's a little fun fact for you. It was about 6 months ago, I held a HEPMA Lunch and Learn, and I moderated it, and it was the AV over IP. I made the assumption that everybody is networked now. And I didn't realize half the people on that call said, no, my AV's never hitting my net. I am going to, every room is its own little, cell block. Everything is like, and I was shocked. I was floored. I was like, really? I mean, I expected like 3 people, right? But I didn't expect half still. So how do you, and to their credit though, some didn't have network teams that could do it. And there's other things. Or they were just afraid to have the conversation. So how do you, in your role, how do you have the conversation with the network team, or even really just anyone else, when you're saying, I've got this new system that is very different than we put in 20 years ago? How do you start those conversations and help them understand that, that change?
Yeah, initially it was, well, we're doing a conference center and, we're going to have, I think there's, 100 plus ports of AV over IP devices. And the conversation basically started, well, I know you're going to this new system. What switches do you use? And I'd like to put those switches in. And that it went down a path I wasn't really looking to take, but that was kind of the initial conversation. We had a lot of conversations back and forth at the time about whether it should be an air gap system or it should be on the network. And, I still battle that in my head of, there is a lot of danger of putting AV on a campus network, and there's a lot of impact that takes on the campus network. So if the network isn't ready for it, you're going to have a lot of issues, and we're still seeing it. We connected a device today and it's got 2 data ports. It's got a LAN port. It's got a Dante port. Well, we're finding out that Dante travels over the LAN port as well. So that was hitting our campus network. They're bringing us up saying you got a device that's sent out a ton of multicast. And, there's so many things that even we're still learning as we go about different products that, why would anybody send Dante over that one port? We have 2 ports. Those are things that we kind of learn together, but you just have to kind of grapple with the reality that to make sure these are secure systems. And the benefit of, from our offices, we can get to these systems now if we're having an issue, and we can take a look and see, where before on an air gap system, it's like, well, now we're going to the building to try and find out what's going on. So there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of dangers, and it's just working between the teams, having those conversations, saying, this is what we would like to have. And they're saying on the security side, well, you can't have that, So it's a lot of back and forth of trying to make each side understand the security risks versus the ability to work on equipment remotely versus, whatever the situation may be. It's just, there's a lot of compromise that has to happen on both ends to really make these systems work. So a lot of conversations, bigger projects take a ton of meetings to just go through everything. Yep. And you're still going to get something wrong. It's still going to, it's still going to catch you in the end. Something you're like, oh, that's something new. Okay, we're going to deal with that for now.
Especially when you're doing it for the first time. And I think also setting that understanding, like, look, we're not going to get this right. We've got good assumptions and we've got white papers and we know what we're going to follow, but we'll get in it. And I think too, like for me, what helps, like the network team are like the people that never get any glory, right? They're pulling cables in the middle of the night. They're hanging out in the ceilings. They're just fixing, people's email passwords. Like the infrastructure department's not the glamorous department. The fact is, neither are we, but we are front of line. We are seen. Our technology is known to faculty, right? We are probably out of most IT departments, the most customer facing, probably, at least boots on the ground. So I like to think if we can bring them into that, it's like, hey, we're going to do this upgrade. We're going to put this neat stuff in here so that we can, why would I want remote monitoring? Why? So I can take my time to resolve a ticket down from 8 minutes to 2 or maybe 0 because I know before something happened, right? And then share them in that story and give the shout outs to, hey, this wouldn't be possible with the work of that network team. Yeah, the AV team's in charge of it, but this doesn't happen with it. And I think that's where it's like they don't ever get glory. So give them that,
On our campus is kind of the opposite. Our networking team, the infrastructure team, they rarely get the glory other than the capital projects where you're going to these folks, you're having these conversations about telecom closets. But our networking team, because we've made this big switch over on our network over the last several years, they are very much front and center with kind of everybody. Everybody knows their names. They know who to contact. And then, coming from the AV industry, we're always kind of the last thought sometimes about getting into buildings. So it always, for us, kind of feels opposite. It feels like the networking team getting all the glory, and then we're on the back end doing all this stuff. So sorry, man.
they're taking your thunder, but that's what they deserve a little bit of credit.
On that. The amount of work they've put in Kearney, in Omaha, in UNMC, here in Lincoln, the amount of buildings that they've had to get into to make these changes, it was a huge undertaking, and they did it in a very short amount of time. So that absolutely, they deserve a lot of credit for what they've done.
Yeah. That is awesome. Let's go now. We haven't really talked to AV. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our network show. So now we got to get into AV. So as the design person, where are you looking now? What are your kind of things when you come? And because again, looking at things from a system, and obviously probably with the UNL, but where are you looking? What are you doing? Kind of what are your peaks right now? Your interests?
Yeah. So, just project to project, I kind of come into it. I don't want to say a blank slate because there's obviously our standards we adhere to, but not a new technology, but something I think that is very much becoming more realistic is direct view LED walls. A few years ago, you couldn't afford to put them in most spaces. Now we're looking at a lot of spaces where we would have put projection systems and like, can we make this direct view LED? So I think in a lot of the projects I work on, that's now more of a thought as we go into the process of does it need it? And 2, will it make sense? And 3, is it something they can afford? But that's something that, we're definitely looking at on a broader scale. A lot of conversations we're having now is, can we start to scale the AV systems? So looking at saving money by, instead of putting, a small system in each classroom, doing a much larger system that'll cover an entire floor of a building or, maybe more than a floor of a building. So that's the conversations we're having. And I actually had that conversation at lunch today, was starting to think about the scale with AV over IP, Dante networking, and everything. Again, we'll jump back to that network real quick, but everything being on the campus network, we're having these, we'll have this ability to start broadening out what we can do to cover multiple rooms, and certain pieces may be more expensive, but if we don't have to have a rack in every classroom, we have a few devices in each classroom, starting to simplify that side. Can we build to scale and save a lot of money in these future projects?
Totally agree. Totally. You hit on a couple things. I'll stay with this one. Then I got to go back to the direct view LED, but we'll stay with this one for now, because I totally agree. Like, so you kind of hit on something that could be a little hot take. Because if you were talking now back in the day when we had like the big old quantum ultras and the matrix things, people could say, because we did a building back when I was at Cal Baptist, they did the nursing building and they put it on 148 by 48, and it was all great until it went out and you lost the whole floor.
Yep.
So I want you to speak to that, but then also I also look at it this way. Like now, I'm back at SC and what we've done at UCLA is essentially we use virtualized control. By doing that, I can just throw an NVX everywhere, and either an NVX encoder or NVX decoder, and I'm just sending this one's going to connect to this one, and the building sees itself as one room. It doesn't recognize there's walls in between. Where are you in that spectrum?
So that's a good question because projects always demand something different, so the certain ones are going to be just a small system, but when we're talking scale, it is, and what we're, as we're talking that scale, what can we scale out? It is very similar with our Harman products, the SVSI. It's throw an NMX encoder here, another one here, a decoder at the projector. So I think there's a lot of ability to simplify that side of things, and it's not like the old giant matrices where we have one device with all these cards. If you have a card fail, because you have a certain amount of rooms. If you have the frame fail, then your whole building potentially could be down. That's simplified a little bit with AV over IP because now we're talking one device for an encode, one device for decode. If we have a campus network switch go down, it's still the same thing. We lose that ability to pass that information. So we're going to have the same problems there, but how often does that happen? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a risk to do that. But I think as you start to look at the products you're using, you can kind of mitigate some of those risks. We're actually really looking forward to the new BSS processors. Part of that is they have a failover ability. So you have a DSP that goes out and automatically switches to the other DSP in the rack. Most people may not even know, and that things like that we're very excited about coming down the road. Old DGX switchers, we're still dealing with those on campus too. So, and it's a matter of updating those versus switching to new. What makes more sense as we go forward.
Yeah. So do you have kind of like a campus strategy plan, and you kind of go, if I hit 90% of this, I'll call it good?
I wouldn't say that. I have a strategy on each project. We haven't scaled it out, at least in my head, I haven't scaled it out to what is our full strategy, because those are early conversations we're having as we're trying to scale out, for general purpose classrooms or projects. How do we do it for a project, which is a different bucket of money versus GP classrooms, which is all funded by the student tech fees. Those are the things that if we're coming out of one bucket for GP, we can cover multiple rooms, no problem. If we're coming out of multiple projects for sharing devices, how are we going to do that? How are we going to fund that? So, that one I don't know yet because we're too early in those conversations to make that decision, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think we all fight that one too, right? I mean, because again, capital, especially capital projects, these schools, in fact, everyone sees it as a one-time thing. This is a one-time expense. They don't realize ongoing.
Yes.
Which is different than our general purpose classrooms. Provosts actually understand you need a revolving budget. Maybe it's not big enough budget, but they understand you need a revolving budget to keep that going.
And those conversations we do have with everybody is, this updates your room, but you really need to come up with a multi-year plan so that, say in 4 years, you start cycling out these products. Yeah, they're not very old at that time. You don't want to get to year 8 or 10 and all of a sudden you have this giant project you have to do over again. So we have had a lot of those conversations. We have a lot of departments that are really buying into that. So we're starting to see more of that cyclical process of updating certain portions of a system or certain rooms in a building.
Yeah. One of the things that we're starting to do is when we give the quote to a department is actually putting a 5-year total cost of ownership price as opposed to what does it cost to put this in price, right? As in, like, so if you've got 5 conference rooms and they're all going to have a Zoom room in it, well, that's still 5 years of Zoom licenses, not 1
Yeah.
year Zoom, because we always think, oh, I'll get the Zoom, but then where am I going to get the money from later? So we actually will now start going, and they're going to look at it as kind of a sticker shock. But we kind of go, well, yeah, but this is your total cost of ownership for 5 years. If you can get more out of it, great. But that's where your warranties run up in 5 years. That's what we're going to call end of life. And we know in higher ed we're going to push beyond it. But that's going to be my promise. This includes my support hours. This includes me doing the hot swaps on the random. This is my software licenses, my money, all of this for that total time. And it actually helps. It's higher price, and everyone's always asked to bring costs down. But what it does, it's like you're also buying an insurance policy.
Yeah.
And that goes really far.
So do you enroll when you do that, your cost of ownership? I guess, how is your department paid? Are you paid per project, or are you paid, do you have SLAs, MOUs? How are you taking care of these rooms as you go forward?
Yes. Yeah, so we actually have an interesting setup. So and again, looking at this through kind of, I want to say our consolidation, but I'll say we have partners, right? So if we look at our general assignment, like I'll take my general assignment classroom group, we are centrally paid out of the tech fees, and that's expected that those rooms are just always supposed to run, and that's kind of built in. Now, if there's a big thing like some of the large auditoriums, right, the projectors are $40,000-$50,000. I'm going to go do a special budget request for some of those, right? So I'll call that the outlier. Most of it is you are paid. We're given a certain budget to keep those general assignment. When it comes to partners, campus partners, usually what we'll do is we will do either the MOU to take over support afterwards, or if they have their own support team, we'll just say, here, we'll serve as the tier 3 and 4, because we like to do centralized programming. We like to do centralized monitoring. They're getting a share of our dashboarding, right? So we do have costs in there, so we'll put it out. But, and then sometimes sometimes people just want an outright buy, but then you also put the MOU going. All we're going to be able to do is call the manufacturer and get a hot swap. I can't send people at 6 o'clock at night to come help support your laptop. You can't get working, if you don't bring on that part. So we do tier it. I would love to see more of a common, a common central way of doing it. Like, Stephanie there at Ohio State, she just came up with her little budget model, right, per space. And I think I would love to be able to do something like that as well, and just go, here's the cost for the space, period. And it's going to be an annual cost for this space. Take everything off. I would love to get there. We're not there. I don't doubt you're there either. But
No, it is. It's interesting just how, we have both those sides. We have the general purpose classrooms and the project side. And in Omaha, their team is just paid off the top, so they go work on a room. They're not looking for cost objects to get paid out of. It's just, they're just paid. Now, I don't fully understand how they're paying for the equipment. I'm assuming the department pays for the equipment, and then they get the installation and programming and support after that. Here it is, you want a project done? Great. Here's what it's going to cost you. And you want support after the fact? You need to talk to my manager. He does all the MOUs, SLAs, and he comes up with what the budgeting would be for each room, depending on the amount of equipment in it. So yeah, it's just so many different pots of money and how things happen, but it'd be fantastic to have that come straight off the top. You're not worried about all the budget ideas. It's more along the lines of what you need and can you afford this as a university. But, I guess at that point you throw in some of that red tape too. Who's making the decisions of, yes, you should be able to put that in there, or no, that's way too much. Cut it in half.
Yeah. And what's funny is I bet if we all as schools just said, here's how much it costs to upkeep, support new technology for all 1,000 spaces that are across our campus. Pretend there's no, departments or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was just one. And you just gave that number and said, this is what I need. This is the staffing. This is the, putting some away for upgrades. This is all of it. I bet that number, while it would be high, is actually less than is spent by individual things, the little, one project here, one project there, doing this, and now I've got to rush this, and then I'm not, and now we can't talk to each other. Like, I'm willing to bet not just in dollars, but also stress, it would be better off. But that's a big number, right? People like
Yeah.
seeing, instead of $100 million, people would rather see $101 million. It's just human
Yeah.
nature, right?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see because you hit on it earlier. It's like there's a lot of spaces that are 15 years old on campus, and they should have been done at least 7 years ago. So it would be interesting to know what that number is on a yearly cycle, and every wipe the slate clean. Everything has a new system. What you need in the room every year is what it's going to take to update. I would love to know that number, but that would take a lot of work. I think that'd probably take a team of people trying to figure that one out.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I kind of want to do it though. I'd love to. Anyway, so now, all right. So I want to also get to another thing because you brought it up, direct view LED. So everyone finds. I was actually just on AV Week and we talked about it too. And and everyone keeps saying it, especially my direct view LEDs. People going, oh, it's so much cheap. It's basically the price of a projector now. Okay, fine. Maybe. Probably it's not, but I get it because maybe it's going to last longer and it's got less. I don't know. I don't know yet. But how did you make the value proposition on it? And I also realized too, a direct view LED means you also lose wall space. So you're probably not putting in a small classroom. You're probably looking at like a large auditorium where everything is up higher. But how do you make that value proposition then?
So the first direct view LEDs that I put into a project stemmed from a project that I started in 2019, and there was a lot of delays on it. It's went into our Scarlet Hotel space. They have a large classroom in there. Well, on the one side of the hotel, they have kind of garage doors that all have glass, which is all on the west side of the building. So we were looking at projectors, 2 large projectors for the space. And then it's like, well, we've got a lot of windows. I need to upsize those projectors. So then you put in really bright projectors. And then a year and a half go by, you get the new pricing on the projectors and you start thinking to yourself, I better look at direct view LED because there's a lot of light in this room. And finding that the prices have dropped significantly to the point of, yes, it's going to cost you a lot more up front. This is going to run a lot longer. You're not going to have projectors just hanging down from your open ceiling. So there was a lot of that thought process that went into, does this make sense for them? This is, for them, it was kind of their crown jewel space. So, they wanted a little bit of flashy, showy that they could go out and try and bring students in as well. So, that factors into it. But for me, it's always about, if I put this in, it's a projector on a screen and I have light coming in from outside. I don't care what I throw at it. It is not going to look good. And I don't want my name on it, So it's that ego, I don't want my ego bruised when they come back to me and say, well, we can't see it very well. It's like, well, obviously it's a projector,
Yeah.
So those were the thought processes that went through. Then we started seeing more outside vendors on Capitol's projects that'll come in and they'll put in direct view LED here or there. And sometimes you're looking at it going, they just put a $500,000 wall in. Why did they put a $500,000 wall in? That's
because the DC got a cutback. Wait, did I say that? Did I say that out loud?
Yeah. So, it just becomes more visible. So you start thinking about it more. I think that was kind of the process. And then, you start looking at some of these, okay, here's an all-in-one. We don't have to worry about separate processors. We don't have to worry about all of the different cable runs. It's 2 outlets as opposed to 5 separate circuits for this wall. The price has come way down. It's still going to last you, 10 or 11 years to have brightness. And it's not a whole lot more than putting a bright projector and a motorized screen in. Yep. So, we're finding some of those, but then it becomes, who do you use? Because there's a million flavors of direct view LED now. So, and trying to find somebody that you can work with or good to work with, but they have a good product that, you can go out and service. You can, if you have a problem, they'll take care of it. And the first one that we put in of the all-in-ones, we found that that company, I won't say who they are, but they
You
were.
can. It doesn't matter. Okay, if you're saying negative, probably shouldn't because I like my sponsors. But
Right. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but this company, which is a very large company, would absolutely not sell us more tiles. And we had put this in a space that they held weddings. Inevitably, we have a wedding. The wall is off. It's all black. We get a drunk guy walk up to it, walks, within a few feet of it, stares at it for 5 seconds, and punches the wall. 3 tiles fall off and break. And they shipped 2 extra tiles with this wall. So now I have 3 tiles broken. I only have 2 to put in the wall. So we called them up and like, we need to buy more tiles just so we can temporarily put them in. Here's my money. And they're like, nope, they absolutely will not sell it. So it's like, well, if you're unwilling to help me out in these situations, then I'm not going to use your product.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's finding out who you can work with. They're willing to understand the situation where it's like, yeah, it's not ideal. It's not going to look the same, but it's only temporary until I get the other ones back from being repaired. And you just got to find those companies that you can work with and you have good partnerships with.
Yeah, and it's weird because you would think that others they would throw them at you, like, here we got a few of these extra tiles laying around, but
Right.
I guess not. But I think you kind of make a good point though, like especially with the all-in-ones. I'm seeing some really good ones, like 126-inch, 130s, 140s that are really you can put them up in 2 hours. They just need standard wall backing, which is what you'd put for large displays, heavy displays anyway.
Yep.
And now I mean, there's a couple out there that are doing that. I think there's one out there is 136. It's just a 120, one outlet. Like
Yeah.
it's like that's crazy, and one network draw to it. It even has a little, a card if depending if you want to use NDI or NVX. What it's like. Okay, now I can get into that, right? That I can get into, but again, it's got to be up higher. I got to think about my writing spaces and all of that. But I think you're right. We're getting to the point where they're not overly heavy because that was also a thing way back. Even though the price per pixel is dropping, the infrastructure and the hidden infrastructure and the video processor that you had to put somewhere and all of that.
Yep.
That to me also was a deterrent, but now we're getting away from those, I think.
Yeah, and it really depends because this project I'm working on now. It'll have its own separate video processor. It's a 32x9 wall that we're putting in, but it's one rack space for a processor. It's 10 cat cables pulled to it, 2 electrical circuits, and it's nothing overly complicated. But then you have, companies like ViewSonic that make the foldable on a movable stand. I mean, things like our athletic department, I think, could use a few of those where you can fold them up, drop them down, pull them between, different rooms through doorways, open it up, and you have a 136-inch DirectView LED that they can use in a larger space. I mean, things that you haven't been able to do in the past. So, there's a great use case for a lot of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, all right. You're convinced me. You made a solid argument that I can't disagree with. I'm gonna go. All right. I knew that we were gonna have a great conversation. This is going long, so we have to switch to the rapid round. It's the rules, so we gotta finish with a handful of fun questions that have no right or wrong answer, unless I have an opinion of my own, in which case you might have a wrong answer.
Oh, sure.
Everyone gets the same first question. Higher ed is all about tradition. So, what is your favorite college tradition?
Favorite college tradition? Well, I mean, here at Nebraska, it's got to be Nebraska football.
At Memorial Stadium, right?
Memorial Stadium. If you haven't been to a game, even if you don't love football, you have to come to a Nebraska football game. The atmosphere outside is just absolutely incredible. And then to get into a stadium that has near 90,000 people absolutely crazy about Nebraska football. It's just an amazing environment. It really is. The worst part about it is every Friday on game day weekends where we have a home game, we have to move our installation vehicles offsite. So that's a pain in the rear, but it is so worth it. It's an amazing experience. If you haven't been to one, you have to do it.
All right, I will agree with that. And well, people kind of know, I lived in Nebraska for a while. My stepdad's from there, and so I was actually just back there a couple months ago, sadly for his funeral, but got to see my family. So that being said, leads into my second question. When I go back to visit, and I give you a ring, and I say, well, let's go out, eat, and drink, and where are we going? Where are you taking me?
Oh boy, I have 2 kids, a wife. I don't go out much, but if I want a really good meal, there's a place not far from me right here. It's downtown. It's the what is it? Can't even think of the name of it. It's a great steakhouse though.
Okay.
It's in the Graduate Hotel.
Okay.
It'll come to me in one of the other questions. I'll just throw it out there.
You'll throw it out there. What do you got? See, I was waiting for you to say Runza or Valentino's.
Well, there is that, but that's like we run through there to grab stuff when we're on our way to our kids' football games or whatever. So that's one of those I just eat too much. So it's got to be something else.
Yeah,
If I'm taking you out to eat, it's got to be something good. It's got to be
going good. We're going that. You know what? And they did great. We went to a barbecue place, my dad's favorite place, and it was like I can't remember the name of it, but it was fantastic. Yeah, you know the funny thing is, the second I got off the airport or got from the airport, I literally first stop was Runza. And I'm like, and I'm like texting my sister. I'm like, we'll need to eat a couple hours later because I'm shoving a Runza down my throat. She's like, yeah, we could have gone together, but it's all right. I'm just, I was a mile away.
I know friends of ours, their kids, if they live in different states, they'll actually buy Runzas, pack them in their backpacks, and take them home and freeze them. And every once in a while, they'll pull them out and eat them. So.
Yep, I mean it's a must do. So all right, that's solid. The other restaurant. So when I was a kid, and it wasn't there because I was there. I must have been there. It was like I was young. P.O. Pears, and it was downtown.
Oh
it's
yeah,
not there anymore. So,
no, that was. So I grew up west of Lincoln, about an hour, but we had some good friends in town, and we went to P.O. Pears a lot. The giant lips, you got to order through the giant lips, and what I remember there was they had the best French dip.
Oh.
And all of the decor from everything. It was an amazing place. Sad to see it go.
That is a sad one. All right.
Yep.
So saying you don't get out a lot is going to be a misnomer because in a few weeks we're going hunting together. You and I, we're going on a trip. So when I think of hunt, so here's okay. We'll have to see what the over/under is of whether more animals or people get shot. Because I'm not a hunter here. What's going through my head is duck hunt from Atari 2600. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you a hunter? If so, what is your game of choice? What am I expecting here?
I am a hunter. I love to hunt. I don't get to go very often anymore, but some of my favorite trips were with my dad, elk hunting in Colorado. So we would started out, we would go and we'd stay in a little tent. And then we find out that little tent should have never gone anywhere but a beach in the middle of summer. And so my dad and my uncle invested in a big hunting tent. We would set that thing up. We would cook inside of it, sleep inside of it. It was a lot of fun, but we'd be out in the nature and we'd be out there a week and have an absolutely amazing time seeing some unbelievable scenery. Never shooting an elk. So that's unfortunate part of it, but it was a lot of fun. Here in Nebraska, my favorite is deer. I enjoy going deer hunting. I bow hunt. I rifle hunt. I stopped going pheasant hunting years ago for a couple of reasons. One, this is the first year in probably 20 years I've even seen a pheasant. And they were flying across the highway. So, not in a hunting situation, but a lot of the shelter belt's been torn up. A lot of the habitat for the pheasants have disappeared, and a lot of coyotes have moved in. So I was very surprised to actually even see them now.
Coyote?
Yeah. Oh, we have tons of coyotes in Nebraska now.
I wouldn't have thought that's a California thing. I mean, coyotes are all over our, like it's why you don't let your cats out at night.
Yeah, and then when I was a lot younger, the last time I went pheasant hunting, one of my old football injuries reared its ugly head up. I pulled a groin really bad in high school football, and I found walking through a lot of tall grass made it to where I couldn't hardly walk at the end of the day. So I don't do pheasant hunting anymore, walking through the tall grasses. So, but I love hunting. I like being outside, even in 20 below and winds blowing, the snow's flying. If you have the right scenery, it's amazing to be able to just sit there and hear nature and be away from everything for a while.
All right. I like it. I'm looking forward to a little time in Georgia. So we'll have a good time. All right. Last one here. We're going to play a quick game of either or. Okay. I'm going to say something. It's one or the other. Okay. So Standardization or personalization? So these are all AV design themed.
Ooh, there's a lot of ego in my position. Uh, I help to write the standard, so it can be both. It can be personalized, and I can make it a standard.
It's one either
Uh,
or. It's either
that
or,
one's
not
got to go.
both.
It's got to go up the chain. So I'd have to say it would have to be standardization.
All right, that's a good answer. All right, ceiling speakers or wall-mounted speakers?
I do a lot of ceiling speakers,
Yeah.
distributed ceiling speakers. Yep.
Or I guess I could even rephrase that: distributed audio or point source.
Yeah, I do a lot of distributed.
All right.
But again, that depends on the situation. I have a project I'm working on where it's you know, as people that are either deaf or hard of hearing, in that situation, it's going to be a point source because it's just much easier for them to hear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See that good answer. You've got use case. All right. Touch panel or button panel?
Depends on the design. What's all in the room?
It's either or. There's no.
Well, then I'm going to have to go touch panel.
Yeah. All right. That is the correct answer. Okay. Wired connection or wireless presentation? Like, as in, a faculty is coming in with a laptop.
If I can only do one thing, it's wired.
Wired. Oh, see,
Wired.
wrong. I'm team wireless. Wireless by default.
I love my Wolfvision and Synap devices. They're amazing. But to not have issues ever, if I can only choose one, it's got to be wired.
All right. I'll take it. All right. Zoom room or Teams room?
We don't do either. We don't have licenses.
Ooh.
If I had to choose, I would say Zoom. I'm much more familiar with Zoom, and every time I jump in Teams, I'm always looking for the button I need to press to do whatever I need to do. And Zoom, I just know it. So that's the only reason I would say that.
All right. BYOD or installed computer?
Installed computer.
Oh, no, those are fighting words. I'm getting rid of mine. All right, give me the reason.
Okay, so we do computers in the rooms for a lot of different reasons, but because we have login, anybody can walk in, log into their own accounts, so they have access to everything they have at their laptop. For me, it is if we're doing mics and we're doing cameras in the room, I just took out the human aspect of somebody that comes in not knowing how to make sure and connect those devices to their laptop. So I'm trying to reduce the number of service calls in that room.
All right. I'll give you that one. I disagree, but I'll give it to you. All right. Two more. Fixed furniture or flexible furniture?
We do a ton of flexible furniture here.
Correct answer. Okay. Last one. And now this one is basically pick the best of the two evils. Okay.
Okay.
Over designing for future proofing or designing to budget, value engineering.
I do this every time. Over design for future.
All right. So
I know there's the budget side of things, but when people are asking for certain aspects of a situation and I'm going, yes, but in 5 years or 2 years or 1 year, you're going to ask for something else. I don't want to have to start over. I don't want you to buy more equipment. So if I over design now, I don't have to do it then.
All right. Very last one, and this is it. Last segment is this: pretending you had your own Everyone gets the same last one. Pretending you had your own show, your own podcast. It doesn't have to be about tech. Anything on Earth. You had your own night show. You got 1 minute monologue. What is your 1 minute monologue? And your time starts now.
My 1 minute monologue. Holy cow. Do I have to do actually a whole minute of me talking about
it doesn't have to be a whole minute. I'm not timing.
No, I would if I could talk about anything and I could talk about anything all day long, I might jump back to hunting and guns.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm. When I would want to, I would grab a gun, go outside, set up targets and shoot. And, I did that as a kid with BB guns and all the way up. So if most people wouldn't know this, but I'm an introvert. So it's hard for me to open up a lot. I worked for Dish Network for several years, forced myself to talk to people. But if you want to get me talking for a long time, start talking hunting and guns, and we've already connected. So.
All right. Well, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about that. And growing up on a farm, so our family, my cousins lived in Trumbull, Nebraska.
Okay.
So that's a small little farm town.
Yeah, I grew up by Benedict, Nebraska, which is 12 miles north of York.
Oh,
So
cool.
I grew up right on Highway 81.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where that. But you know, this is what happens when you bring people in from the Midwest. Everything has to be about small towns, and we didn't talk about weather, but it's always small towns and weather. But all right, well, we did a little bit with the hunting. All right, so I'm going to put your LinkedIn in the show notes so people can connect with you there. But is there any other way people can connect with you, get to know you, should they decide? They would like
to. I got my Nebraska EDU email. It's just mbolton@nebraska.edu. My information, if you jump on to Nebraska's website, you can find my information there.
Great. I highly encourage everybody to reach out. This was such a fun one. I knew this one was going to go long, and we had a great one. And again, everybody. So well, thank you, Matt, for joining the show.
Thank you.
And everybody, please, like always, of course, you can follow me, find me at Josiah Way on all the socials. Follow at Hired AV and join HETMA at hetma.org, of course. And as always. None of the opinions expressed here are necessarily any of those of our respected institutions, organizations, sponsors. Anyone who wants to sue us, if you want to sue us, has nothing to do with you. Just so you know, no conversation, any names of the companies that were said, pretend you didn't hear it if it made you mad. So there we go. With that being said, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed this one. And if you didn't like these opinions, there may be better ones next time.